Thanks. Hi, everyone. Oh my goodness, I'm going to cry. I'm so happy to see everybody. SuzAnne, sex, love, fantasy, and intrigue addict. It's been forever since I've seen these faces, and I got nervous when I saw my sponsors on the call. So here goes. I'm SuzAnne. I'm a sex and love addict. I got my 8-year chip sobriety back in January of this year. January 7th is my sobriety date. I usually like to say how many days that is in days, because it really is for me a 1 day at a time thing, even after 8 years. So I guess just to tell my experience, strength, and hope, I'll get into it. In the kind of line of business I am in for work, we look at root causes of things. We have to really kind of drill down and peel onions all the time and get to root causes. And so that's kind of how I think about this addiction for me, this issue, this affliction, is the root cause turned out to be me. I was the root cause of all my problems. I think I started out before I found this program and this work I've had to do on myself, that a lot of people would come to me for relationship advice, and they thought I was clever. I thought I was clever. I always seemed to have the answers that really worked, but turns out after unpeeling everything, I was just really good at manipulation. So when people struggled in relationships themselves, so people of like mind, people that probably belong in the rooms with us, would come to me, I would tell them how to manipulate to get the answers they wanted or the people they wanted or whatever, and it would work, and they thought I was amazing. It somehow escaped them the notice that I was always single, but I always presented my singleness as a badge of honor, like, I do what I want, I'm a rebel, no one can hold me down, and that's kind of how I presented myself, so it seemed very confident, and that attracted people. It attracted people who were struggling, is what it did. I think in hindsight, a lot of people saw through my BS and they just didn't bother with me, and so I didn't know they existed because they just kind of sidestepped me. I kept, every time I was in a relationship before I found program, I kept changing different factors. I'm like, well, that didn't work. So I would change up different factors when I would date the new person, thinking that would fix my issues with relationships. And even though I did that, I would still have the same result in the relationship. I would either keep being addicted to unhealthy relationships, people that were emotionally unavailable, very intense situations, people I trauma bonded with, or it would be if I did happen to snag somebody who is healthy and that for some reason they had some quality that still attracted me, it would be short-lived. Normally, people who are healthy, I'd drive right past. I wouldn't even stop to be in a relationship with them. I wouldn't even notice them at all. And I was very dismissive about it too. I was really hooked on intensity, and it would get worse and worse in the relationship and just, in the relationship. So it took me a lifetime to build this pattern and keep changing and trying different methods or changing things up. But, you get in your 40s or you get to 40 and you're like, there's a pattern here and it's me. So when I was 40, my friends were saying, you have daddy issues. I'm like, no, I don't. And it turns out I have mommy issues after talking to a therapist. I have abandonment issues. I have attachment issues. And I disassociate, which is really handy in growing up. But in relationships as an adult, it just does not serve me to detach. And 4 minutes? Okay, thank you. And so my life was a disaster when it came to relationships. Other things I could do successfully, but relationships just weren't. It became very well apparent I wasn't good. And if I could categorize my life before program, it was a blues song. It was definitely a blues song. It was the theme of my life. I could not be satisfied. It was never enough. I was a big gaping hole. And then I discover program and what happened. And so what happened to make me discover program was, my 30s of acting out, and then my 40s of holy crap, I'm in some dangerous situations. I'm dating people who've gotten 2 strikes against them, or I'm dating somebody and we're acting in behaviors that could get me potentially in jail because I'm doing them in public just because it's exciting, And so the thing that kind of the aha moment for me was like a funk song or a 90s R&B song because I was just acting out on just pure raw passion and what felt good in the moment. So and it stopped working and it got scary. So the therapist showed me some defects I had, and so it really didn't click until I found this program. A radio program led me to the Center for Healthy Sex, and then on there they have a S.L.A.A. link, and they had the 40 questions. And I passed the 40 questions with flying colors. The only ones I didn't relate to were the anorexia ones, but that's just because I'm a shark. I have to keep moving and, woo people and manipulate people. So the anorexia I really didn't relate to too much, but I did relate to everything else. Now I relate to more anorexia. I can see where the anorexia played in now that I've kind of learned more about myself. So for me, recovery was a process. I was slow going. I was hard-headed. I've had 2 sponsors. My first sponsor was hard on me. She scared me. I was afraid of her. She was going to drop me one time, and she's like, "You have to go to AA because you're an alcoholic too." And I'm like, "No, I'm not." But I had to go and check that out. And she kind of scared me straight. And that's what I needed at the moment. And then I had, she left the state and moved away and said, "Hey, you have to get somebody else." And my new sponsor's like, "Yeah, I can work with you, but you have to start from the beginning." And I was pissed off. I'm just going to say that. I was pissed off that I had to start again. But what I was doing wasn't working. I mean, yeah, I had a bunch of ego and I had a bunch of pride, and I thought but I knew there was a pattern and it was me. So I just did something different. I said, fine. And acquiesced to starting my steps over again. And it was the best thing ever I could have done. How the steps worked in my life, I first needed to come out of denial that I didn't know everything. I used to think I knew most things. I was mostly right about most things. And then I had to come to a place where I'm mostly wrong about most things. I'm not always right about things. And I had to really come to terms and meet my ego and see what it's about and see how it's kept me in this denial space. And what I thought was confidence was really acting out of fear and just self-protection. I had to come to trust authority. Big problem for me. It took me a long time to trust authority. They talk about, getting a higher power, and it doesn't have to be anything. It can be what you need it to be. That seemed like bullshit to me. I'm just going to create a little paper doll and call it my, higher power, and that's supposed to run my life? No. You tell that to somebody who is very controlling and very highly independent. That doesn't work well, but I had to get into that. Thank you, Lupe. I appreciate you. But I was able to finally, just again say fine and listen to my sponsor and try something new. Have the courage to try something new. I had to be open to letting go of control and trusting having a different way of thinking and being open to following a program, following my sponsor's advice, even though I didn't want to, and believing in a higher power. And I was able to genuinely, honestly, authentically have a belief, because through the help of people in this exact meeting, this meeting is what really where I found my recovery, because it's based in fantasy and intrigue, and that's where I lived. I lived in self-denial fantasy, and so this meeting really kind of kicked my butt, and people being very candid with me and if it's disrespectful to define God, who is it disrespectful to? And I was like, oh, good point. And then it had to be a one day at a time thing. I had to, take inventory constantly and really on a daily basis, look at myself and be willing to change. And if I make a mistake, come clean about it with myself and others and do the right thing. And I had to stay connected at the hip with that higher power. I think of it in terms of drumming, like I have to stay in that perpetual flow and momentum, the participatable, expected flow and momentum. It's always going to be there. And I just need to stay in that flow of my higher power and quit trying to divert that flow somewhere else because I get off beat. And the music of my life doesn't sound good. It's corny, but that's me. Having a life of service has tremendously changed my life. I used to have a feeling of like, let me get mine. Okay. I was a Southern rock, Black Keys kind of, a girl. I need to go get mine, mentality. But now I have, an approach of service, and I always try to be of service in everything I do. And that's really turned around who I am as a person. And it's attracted my vibe is different. I don't look at things the same. I have to let things go if I'm taking them personally. And I feel like if I could categorize my life in a song and in a genre, it would be like all those guilty pleasure songs that you sing in the car when you're alone or when you're on a road trip with your daughter, which I just did, driving from Arizona to Chicago with her, and she made a playlist of all our guilty pleasure songs. And my life in recovery is like singing at the top of my lungs, "How Deep Is Your Love" by the Bee Gees, or Love Will, what's that? That Captain Tennille song from my childhood, at the top of my lungs, singing Cabaret, Liza Minnelli version at the top of my lungs. That's my life in recovery. Just happiness, joy, being of service, giving love. I was in a relationship where I needed love, and I felt wasn't getting physical attention, and we weren't having sex as often as I wanted it. I would sit there at the edge of the bed, with my back to my boyfriend, like pissed off that he's not touching me. And I'm like, oh, but I can touch him, and I just sit there and expect me. So in that moment when I was feeling very alone in a bed with somebody else, I just rolled over and gave my boyfriend a big hug. And he just received it with such an amazing experience. And it wasn't sex, it was just a hug. But it's what I needed. So I thought, I need to give that to him. And I got hugged. And not only that, it feels better for me, I've noticed, to give love than to receive it. You do get some back, but that's not why I do it. It just feels good to be loving. It feels good to give forgiveness. It feels good to not hang on to crap and take it personally at every turn. Those things feel good to do. And there's a calm and a peace in my life now that I have that I never had before when I was out there being a rebel. Out there, you can't tell me what to do. And just acting out of like this thing I thought was confidence, but it was really just ego. That wasn't, it was fun. Don't get me wrong. I had a lot of fun, but it's different. It's just a different good now. And it's more honest and authentic. And I think it's closer to what humanity is. Because there's the bad, thank you. Humanity, there's a lot of bad parts of humanity that we see, especially in the last 2 years. I think we can really, for some of us, it's really been highlighted. Some people felt it all their lives. And I've experienced a lot of trauma in my childhood that definitely contributed to my acting out, a lot of trauma. I come from a family of sex and love addicts, and it even caused death. It caused murder in my family. You hear domestic violence situations all the time, but we have a choice. I have a choice, and I can choose to flip that coin and act out of a place of love and kindness and humanity. And I've just become this big old hippie. I know I've said that a million times before, but I'm just so happy with that. That is a better way to live. It's not toxic. It's infectious, but in a good way. So I'm grateful. I'm grateful for the S.L.A.A. Fellowship because I'm in San Antonio now. I'm connected to meetings here. I'm gonna be starting some service here more than likely really soon because we've blended into a blended meeting where we have in-person meetings at a church with social distancing and all that. Plus, people can call in, and it's working really well. But I'm about ready to jump in with both feet into my full-on service in this fellowship here in Texas. But I never would have been able to do that without my LA contingent behind me and supporting me. And I don't call my sponsors often enough because there's a 2-hour difference, but that's just an excuse. I could make it work if I needed to. So I have to step outside of my denial, I guess. And call her more often. So I apologize, sponsor. I'll call you more often. You're going to be hearing from me. And just my friends that stay connected with me. I mean, I was running late getting into this meeting because somebody from the LA Fellowship was here, staying with me for a few days. So I'm very blessed with lifelong relationships in this program that taught me how to be romantic in romantic relationships. And in friendships with friends, and in relationship with people at work in a healthy, boundaried way. So, I mean, it has positively infected everything I do. So thank you for letting me share, and I hope you go out, go forth and sing your guilty pleasure to the top of your lungs and live a life like that. Thank you.